All right, folks, we are back here on Issues and Answers Friday. Straight out of the cannon. I got to get like a cannon sound or something. Like it's every time I say that, it goes like boom or something. I'll get on that. I'll definitely get on that. Hope you enjoyed the Amy Winehouse. Of all the white people doing black music, I always thought she's one of the better ones doing it. A lot more sincere than a lot of people. You know, very troubled individual. But I felt like she's very talented woman. And unfortunately here in the city of Gary, I definitely got to talk about this now. But we literally just lost Gary royalty this week. Mr. Tito Jackson of the Jackson 5 passed away this week at the age of 70. Toriano Jackson, that was his real name, was born right here in the city of Gary, Indiana on October the 15th, 1953, the third of 9 siblings. He was considered and a lot of people didn't know this, but he was a somewhat of a strong vocalist. He could sing, you know what I mean? He was overshadowed in a lot of people's minds by Michael, obviously, and Jermaine. But Tito had his own tenor, very strong tenor voice, and was great at harmonizing with his brothers and anybody else. You know, obviously, my connection to the Jackson 5. You listen to the show, if you haven't heard before, my cousin, the late Gordon Keith, was the one who originally signed the Jackson brothers to his Steeltown Records label and put out their very first music that they had made before going to Motown. And I remember when Michael passed away, how distraught Gordon was. He was very distraught. Because even though they left him for Motown, and there were legal battles about that for many, many years, he never at any point had an issue with any of the children. And he always loved those children regardless of how he felt about the way that maybe their father did business. And it's so bizarre now that Michael's gone, Tito's gone, and Gordon's gone. It's just sort of surreal at this point to think about. Just a few weeks ago, I was saying that we have really one job. Our government has one job, and that is to make sure that the Jackson house, to protect the Jackson house, and to make sure that there is an adequate Jackson memorial, an adequate Jackson, I don't want to say industry here in the city of Gary, but mostly when people come to the city of Gary, they want to see the Jackson house. That's what they want. It's just like people go to Memphis, they want to see where Elvis lived. They want to see Graceland. And there's really no reason why we shouldn't have something a lot better and now apparently safer for people who want to come and mourn Michael Jackson or celebrate Michael Jackson, now mourn Tito Jackson or celebrate Tito Jackson here in the city of Gary. And I've said that's a failure of successive administrations here in the city of Gary, because now losing a musical titan like Tito Jackson, you know, people are going to start talking about us again. And people have already been talking about us again. People have been out there at the Jackson house all week celebrating, rightfully so, Mr. Tito Jackson. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people is taking his death for people to discover how talented he was as a guitarist. Because he really was a talented guitarist. I don't think a lot of people know, unless they're real Jackson fans, that it was actually Tito who used to sneak his father's guitar. Tito used to sneak his father's guitar out and play his guitar. And he was the one who actually got that family down the road of performing. Because when his father found out that he had been playing his guitar because he broke a guitar string, he said, look, you've been playing my guitar. You've been touching something that wasn't yours. Or as my man Lawrence Hilton Jacobs said in the movie, you've been touching something that is mine. Him getting that guitar and playing it for his father, who probably is like, boy, you better know how to play if you're gonna touch my guitar. And he was so impressed with what he heard from Tito and the brothers who were performing with him. He said, oh, Eureka, here we go. Here we go. Hallelujah. 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 And thus the Jackson 5 were born. And so none of that may have ever happened if Tito Jackson does not get caught taking his father's guitar out and break the string so that Joe forces him and his brothers to perform for him, proving that it was worth it for him to break his guitar string. I mean, that's incredible when you think about how just small things change history. Tito Jackson breaking a guitar string changed the history of music. That's incredible. The Jackson 5 signed to Motown Records in 1968. They were the first group with the label to have 4 consecutive #1 hits on the Billboard 100 with The Love You Save, I Want You Back, ABC, and I'll Be There. All great classic records. At the time, the prosperity and success were unparalleled for a funky pop sounding vocal group. They were a lot better musicians and performers than children were supposed to be. It wasn't just Michael. Jermaine and Tito and Jackie and all those guys were all seasoned performers. I know people who saw them in nightclubs, performing nightclubs in the mid to late 60s when they were before Motown. In nightclubs. They all were strong musicians. They all could sing in pitch. They all had great vocal technique and did all this while dancing and or playing instruments. That's incredible. There still has not been a better boy band than the Jackson 5. Never. Just you know, nobody could do what they do. And I love New Edition, and I love, you know, anybody with talent, but to do what they were doing and be the musicians that they were, there's nobody close to the Jackson 5 in terms of as a boy band with talent, with skill. No, sorry. They continued performing for the next 15 years in various iterations until 1984 when Michael and Marlon left the band by then, who were playing as the Jacksons. They stopped being the Jackson 5 when they left Motown and went to Epic and became the Jacksons. I think a lot of that stuff is my favorite Jackson stuff. My favorite Jackson song of all time would be Show You the Way to Go. I absolutely love that track. It is from one of my favorite eras of music. I call the elegant disco era of the late 70s, the mid to late 70s, where you had a lot of orchestration and sophistication in the music, that was being made. It was disco music, but it was also very orchestrated as well. And the musicians and the singers who were playing were all top notch. The songwriters, Gamblin' Huff. The Gamblin' Huff stuff the Jacksons did, I think, is their best stuff that they did. Their final album as a quartet with Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Randy was, fittingly, 2300 Jackson Street in 1989, made about their experiences right here in the city of Gary. But that really was not the end of Tito Jackson's musical journey. Even after the Jacksons disbanded, Tito continued writing songs, continued singing and recording, sometimes with Marlon and Jackie as the Jacksons, but he did his own solo work. He performed here. He performed here fairly regularly, if I'm not mistaken, at the casino. And again, everybody I've ever heard who watched Tito perform said he was a hell of a guitarist. A hell of a guitarist, a blues guitarist influenced by Bobby Rush and all those guys. B.B. King, Albert King. Everything I've heard was that he was a great blues guitarist. In 2003, he commenced his own solo projects predominantly as a blues man. He released Tito Time in 2016, and what would be his last album, Under Your Spell, just a few years ago in 2021. On this album, he had Stevie Wonder, Joe Bonamassa, Claudette King, Eddie Levert, Marlon, his brother Marlon, Kenny Neal, and the great Bobby Rush. I have a lot of respect for Bobby Rush, one of the greats. I actually wanted to play a song off that album, and I think this one is very fitting, especially considering the times we live in. This song is called Love One Another, a song about unity and of reconciling and hope. His mom's in the music video, Chris Tucker, and so many others. If you got YouTube, if you know anybody who can get you to YouTube, tell them to play the video for Love One Another by Tito Jackson. It is very inspirational, especially in these times that we live in currently. This is Tito Jackson. I think we can, pay tribute to Mr. Tito by playing his music. This is Tito Jackson with Love One Another here on WLTH. Rest in peace to the blues man. We'll be right back after.
Stop that killing, fighting, racism, and all the bad things that are happening today. We need to love one another.
Make a new connection to everyone. Let's lead the way to a brighter day, where everyone gives love and affection. 'Cause I don't understand. Why don't we love one another? Why won't we trust one another? If only love one another now. Love one another now. Say, why don't we walk with one another? Why don't we talk with one another? If only we love one another now. Yeah. Together we stand. Divided we fall. What unites us all is sympathy, love. Today is the day we chase the hate away. I let them know we're not afraid to vagabond. I don't understand why I was killed. Love one another. Why won't we trust one another? If only love one another now. Love one another now. Said, why don't we walk with one another? Why don't we talk with one another? If only we love one another now. Yeah. Love is the way. Save a generation, unite all the nations around the world. Now is the time, put your hand in mine. All you gotta do is open up your mind. Come on, why don't we love one another? Why won't we trust one another? If only love one another. Why don't we love one another? Why don't we walk with one another? Why don't we talk with one another? If only we love one another now. Yeah. Love one another. Come on. Trust one another. Love one another now. Don't you hear me? Walk with one another. Talk with one another. Love one another now. Why don't we love one another? Why don't we trust one another? Why don't we
Chris Tucker finishing off the song that was Love One Another by Mr. Tito Jackson. And so let's have a 10-bell salute for Mr. Tito Jackson and say goodbye to one of the great musicians we ever produced here in this region.